I'm joined today by Ashley Cummins, set to rematch Jinh Yu Frey at Invicta FC 39, of course, for the title. Thanks so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, and before we get into all the fight stuff, we know that it was just a holiday season. A bunch of holidays just passed. Were you able to celebrate anything?
Honestly, not really, because I was in camp,
Yeah.
you know, so it took away the holidays, but it's all right because it'll all be worth it in a couple weeks.
And so, what do you do during this time? I mean, are you watching everybody else eat while you're eating kale, or is it just kind of staying away from everything?
I got to spend some time with my family for the holidays, but I couldn't eat what I wanted, and I was training all day. But like I said, I've been wanting to fight for the championship belt for years and years, and this is what I've been waiting for. So it's all worth it to me.
And so we know this fight. I believe it got announced like less than a week ago. I believe it was this past weekend. How long has this fight actually been in the works? We know the first one was canceled, but when did Invicta come with you for another date?
For this date, I don't remember exactly when I was notified. It was probably like a week before Christmas, I think, or maybe a week and a half before Christmas. It's actually technically the third time this fight has been scheduled. The first time I didn't get a contract yet. It was sometime in like early 2019. Shannon just called my coach saying, "Hey, Ashley's fighting for the belt." She gave me a date, and then I was in camp for like a week and a half. And then after like a week and a half, Shannon called my coach back and was like, "Oh, Jin's fighting now over in Asia for a different title." So then it got postponed. And then in October, I was in camp for like 9 weeks, and then Jin got injured, and now this is the third time.
And so, how frustrating has this process been for you? Because we know it's for the title, it's what you've been working for, building for throughout your career. I mean, and it keeps getting pushed back. You're in camp and everything. How frustrating has everything been for you?
But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was frustrating to have to, especially to be in camp for 9 weeks and to put so much work towards something and lose all that weight, and then like a week and a half out, for them to tell me the fight isn't gonna happen. But I always try to believe everything happens for a reason, and there was a reason why it didn't happen in October, and February is better, and it's my time now.
And so, does that mess with your motivation at all, knowing that the fight's happening, you get excited for that, then it gets pulled back? I mean, does it mess with your motivation? Like, does it affect you mentally?
No, I think if anything, like I get almost like excited because I'm like, oh, now I have more time to get even better and keep working on stuff.
And so, 2019, I believe you weren't able to fight at all. Is that all just because this fight kept getting rescheduled, or were there talks to try to get you back out there?
No, it's because this fight got rescheduled twice in 2019, and that's why. I mean, I know if I would have asked Shannon, like, hey, can I get a non-title fight? I know she would have found me one, but I wasn't interested in that. I only want to fight for the belt.
Yeah, I assume taking another fight. I mean, it's a dangerous game because anything can happen out there, and then there goes, the title shot.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, in 2019, I got offered to be on Contender Series for the UFC at 115 pounds, and I turned that down for this title fight.
And so, let's talk about that a little bit. How difficult was it for you to turn that down? Because we know some fighters they want the belt where they are. Some of them, a lot of fighters, they want to go directly to the UFC. Was it difficult for you to make that decision?
Yeah, that honestly was a really hard decision I had to make. It took me about a week to like finally come up with my answer. I talked to all my coaches about it, and um, you know, my dream's always been to be in the UFC. But I know at the end of the day, 115 pounds isn't my weight class. I used to fight at 115, and I know I'm too small. And for me, right now the goal is to have the belt. Maybe in the future, after I have the belt, I'll try again at 115. But right now, I just have tunnel vision for fighting for the championship belt and winning it.
And who was the person that was the most helpful in making a decision? I mean, you mentioned your coaches. I assume you talked to your manager as well. Who was the person that kind of gave you the best, guidelines?
Probably my head coach, my head MMA coach, Manolo. He was the one that kind of sat down with me and listed the pros and cons, and we both just decided, maybe in the future we can try for that again, but right now let's get the belt.
And so heading into this fight, we know you've trained for her quite a few times. You have fought her in the past. You've been in camp for her before. Is this camp like most of your camps leading up to fight her, or have you had to change things here and there?
No, I mean the game plan's always been the same. So I've been training for this fight for several different camps and for several months. So I'm ready wherever the fight goes, but everything stays the same.
And so this is a rematch. I mean, leading up to this, how is the mentality different because you fought this fighter before, or is it just kind of like any other fight?
No, I don't think just because I fought her before, I don't think that changes anything. And especially since that fight was a long time ago, I think it was like almost 3 years ago. So, I'm a completely different fighter now, and everything I do is different. The way I move is different. I've improved everywhere. I moved out to San Diego, August of can't remember when. I've been out in San Diego now for like a year and a half now under a different team, different coaches. So I know like I'm a different fighter now.
You mentioned going out to San Diego, changing the coaches and everything. How helpful has that been for you? I mean, have you noticed a big change since then?
Yeah, I mean it's been a night and day difference. I mean I love my teams back in St. Louis, Missouri, and if it wasn't for them, I would have never became a number one contender. They made me a really good fighter, but sometimes you just have to change things up, get different coaches, different perspectives, different training partners, and I train now with some of the best fighters in the world. I have some of the best coaches in the world. Um, it's been a huge, significant increase in my training and my performance every day.
I know. Do you feel like there's anything you can take from that first fight you guys had together? You mentioned you're different. I assume it may or may not be the case for her. Do you feel like there's anything you can take away from that first fight?
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot that fight, and I saw like my weaknesses and what I need to work on, and ever since that fight, I haven't stopped working. And I've improved on everything, and I've particularly worked my wrestling a lot and worked all my weaknesses, and I'm excited to go back in there and show everyone why I'm one of the best fighters in the world.
And so, what are the goals for you in 2020? I assume, obviously, we start with the first fight. It's getting the belts and everything. I mean, is it getting the title defenses? Is it making that push towards the UFC or any of those other promotions? What are your goals professionally for this year?
I mean, ideally, the goal is to win the belt, and after that, see what the options are with UFC or Contender Series. So, um, we'll see what happens. Right now the focus is just getting that belt. I can't predict what the future holds. I've always hoped and prayed that the UFC is going to start atom weight, but every time I think it's about to happen, it never happens. So, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds.
And so, what kind of fight are you expecting out there against her? I assume it's going to be different, obviously, from the first one. But I mean, when you think about this fight, I assume you do a lot of visualizing. Well, what do you sort of expect out there?
I expect it to be, an action-packed fight. We're both aggressive fighters, and I think we're both well-rounded fighters. And I expect the fight to go everywhere. I expect to be standing. I expect a lot of wrestling transitions, and I expect a lot of jiu-jitsu. So I think it's going to be an entertaining fight for the fans.
All right, and that leads me to my very last question. How do you see yourself getting your hand raised in this fight?
I just think I'm going to be dominant wherever the fight goes. I just see myself better everywhere. So, um, I could see myself winning in a lot of ways. So, but I expect the belt around my waist and to be celebrating at the end of the night.
All right, well, we look forward to it. It's going to be a great fight. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.